and Snap Financial. Snap and Snap Financial Access CEO, and we are really grateful to be here today and really want to talk to you about kind of how the COVID dollars are playing out on the ground and to kind of share from some of our recipients what that's meant to them. So I didn't know if you had any opening remarks you wanted to make or thoughts.
Well, I'd love to do that. And thank you so much for all of you for being on this. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And let me just say at the top that we all know Washington State is really dealing with a housing crisis before this pandemic ever began. And that pandemic has now only made things a lot harder for people. There isn't a single community that I visit or talk with, whether it's in the suburbs of Spokane or whether it's in downtown Seattle or anywhere else, where the cost of housing is not at the forefront of people's minds. In our state from 2019 to 2020, we had the third largest increase in people experiencing homelessness in the country. That is more than 1,300 people. And based on the National Low Income Housing Coalition's calculations, 68% of our renters with extremely low incomes in Washington State spend 50% or more of their income on housing. And as with so many of the health and economic consequences of this pandemic, people of color have been facing even more housing insecurity. So as of this past spring, 1 in 5 Black renters in this country were unable to make rent, and homeowners of color have faced some of the highest risk of foreclosure. During a call just like this one, I spoke to people who are dealing with housing insecurity and high housing costs, and with housing providers from around our state about what it's like on the ground and working to make sure that people are safe and secure and housed during this public health crisis. And I've taken all the stories that I've heard and experiences from here in Spokane and across our state back with me to this other Washington to help fight for the kind of investments that we've got to make. And as you all know, we did secure some critically important relief in the American Rescue Plan. And that plan really did a lot to help address some of the root causes of housing insecurity by putting money directly in people's pockets. And of course, as well, to address the housing needs specifically, including emergency rental assistance, mortgage payment assistance to people so they would avoid foreclosure, and emergency housing vouchers to help people avoid homelessness. And of course, thanks to SNAP and organizations like that, so much of this relief has now gone out to our communities. And as I have heard from folks across our state, this American Rescue Plan assistance meant all the difference when it came to making rent and keeping a roof over their head. But we are not done seeing the impact that the American Rescue Plan started in terms of housing affordability. That bill did include $350 billion, that's with a B, for our state, local, and tribal governments across the country to support their response and recovery from COVID. But among other things, those funds can also be used for emergency housing assistance in addition to the development of affordable housing and permanent supportive housing. But I have been hearing from renters and homeowners, housing is just one piece of this puzzle, because as we all know, as these temperatures drop in the winter and those heating bills go up, utility assistance is also essential for families who are dealing with these rising costs, which is exactly why I worked really hard to include substantial heating assistance in the American Rescue Plan, and why I am very glad to announce today that Washington State will receive more than $140 million in low-income home energy assistance program funds through the American Rescue Plan. That is the most that Washington State has ever received. And what that means for people in Washington State struggling to make ends meet is lower heating bills this winter and one less cost to worry about. But I do want to be clear that just because the American Rescue Plan is making an impact in our state, we're grateful for that. It doesn't mean we're done working to address this housing crisis. As I said, we are already experiencing a housing crisis before this pandemic. Just getting back to where we were before the pandemic leaves us in a very difficult place. So I believe housing is a right. That's why I believe Congress has to finally make a major federal investment in affordable housing and housing infrastructure and make sure every community in Washington State sees those investments. We have a bill that takes those steps. It's called the Build Back Better Act. I'm pushing really hard to make sure we can get it passed into the president's desk. And to that end, I'm very excited to hear more about how the American Rescue Plan has helped SNAP make folks in Spokane able to make rent and stay housed. Because as I hear from all of you about what is working, what the challenges are, that gives me the opportunity here in Washington, D.C. to make the case for all of you. And that's why I want to hear from you today. So thank you so much for joining me. And Julie, I'll turn it back over to you. You can introduce our guests and I will listen.
Thanks, Senator. Yeah, there is a lot of work to do. And as you know, if anything, COVID has tested kind of our resilience and our perseverance. And we'd hope to have Aaron Riley today, who is kind of the head of that team, but he, like many of our clients, is experiencing some digital divide moments. He's on Amtrak right now and the coverage isn't great. So he asked me to kind of pass along his thoughts, and then we're going to hear from Chelsey, who oversees rental assistance, and then most importantly from recipients and some of our neighbors that are receiving some of these dollars. So hopefully we'll give you a good picture there. Aaron just wanted me to share with you that kind of prior to COVID, as you probably well know, rental assistance funding was pretty much non-existent in the homeless space. There was very little money for rental assistance. And one of the few upsides of kind of COVID is that this has been brought to the forefront. And because of COVID, the rental assistance money in some big kind of numbers has really kind of come through, right? And I think SNAP has delivered over $20 million in rental assistance in the past 16 months. And the need is still, I just can't believe the wait list is still very strong right now. And Chelsey can maybe speak a little bit to that. In 2020, we had brought on about 18 people to fund that rental assistance team. We didn't even have a rental assistance program in early 2020. So it was like, stand it up, get it ready, get that money kind of deployed. And we are super grateful to have had the partnerships in place that we did. So some of this money, as you know, is coming straight from Treasury to the county, to ourselves. And I believe Commissioner Cooney is with us today, and perhaps Scott Simmons, who's the CEO at the county as well. And they've been amazing at getting that money out the door quick, which is pretty unheard of. And then some of these other dollars have flown through Commerce and down to the county and to us, and those have also gotten out the door. We've had multiple flavors of rental assistance. It's a little confusing to kind of keep straight, but ERAP and ERA and TRAP and multiple amendments, but all that doesn't matter to our clients. What they care about is, are they getting the assistance they need? You know, they don't care what flavor that is. But to your earlier comments, I would say part of our focus has been partnering with some of the community members that we don't normally work with. So nonprofits like Latinos in Spokane, the Asian Islander Community Group has also helped get these dollars out. Emmanuel Lutheran has helped. And so we know we're not always the best providers in some of those communities. So if we can take some of that money and give it to them and they serve their people better, we're all for that. And that has been another big win, is we don't have to be everything to everybody, right? We want the money to get to where it needs to be. And those folks have really stepped up and grown their capacity to deliver this service as well. So I think at this stage, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chelsey, who is handling our kind of rental assistance program on the ground, and then she'll further introduce our neighbors that have received some of these dollars. So Chelsey, over to you.
Hello, good afternoon, Senator. I just wanted to share with you that in addition to COVID rental assistance, SNAP has received COVID-related funding in a number of SNAP programmatic areas, including ARPA LIHEAP Energy Assistance, ARPA LIHEAP Weatherization, and a new program to help folks with the water-related utilities, ARPA LIWAP. Want to make sure I said that right. Over the past 16 months, SNAP has received several different flavors of COVID, as Julia said. They largely fall under three programs: ERAP, ERA, and TRAP, the Treasury Rental Assistance Program. Some of these dollars flow through the federal government straight to the county and SNAP, and some of these funds are flowing through the State Department of Commerce to the county and then SNAP. We are grateful to the county for acting and contracting quickly so we could get these dollars out in an efficient and timely manner. SNAP continues to see a strong demand for rental assistance dollars, and if time permits, after we hear from our clients, if you would like to learn more about our successes and our challenges, we would be happy to share those as well. And at this point, I would like to ask Rachel if she would be willing to share with the senator the impact of rental assistance has had for her.
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can, Rachel, go for it.
Okay. So when COVID first started, I was working at an elementary school. So obviously I had to stay home at that point, and my son was at home. So that was actually really nice for me. So I was able to help him with that. But during COVID, my husband actually had gotten sick with a lung issue, not COVID related, but was in the hospital. And so when I was able to go back to work, I had to decline that offer because I couldn't risk being in contact with anybody at that time. So we had a lot of time where we were both off work. And I had SNAP help me in the past with energy assistance, but I had no idea about the rental assistance. And I was working at a little convenience store, and a friend came in that happens to work for SNAP and told me, hey, if you live in Spokane County, we have this energy assistance if you're behind on your rent. And I was like, I am behind on my rent. And so we were able to get that pushed through. And when we had needed SNAP for energy assistance, it had always been so easy. And everybody had been so kind with like helping us get what we needed, talking to Avista for us, and making sure that our power had stayed on. So with the housing assistance, you worked with my landlord, got all of that figured out. And now my son just tested positive for COVID yesterday. So we'll be quarantining now. And we have that little bit of assurance that our rent is paid for the next month or two, which is incredible because I don't know. I mean, it's just so scary to not know, where your rent payment is going to come from. So having that help when you need it is incredible.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And we do have another client, Amy. If you would like to share the impact of rental assistance on you, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Senator, thank you for doing so much for assistance. A lot of us don't get a voice, so it is nice to see it represented and heard. I'm coming to you from my home office here, and I'm trying not to tear up because it is because of assistance like this that I've been able to have this. I have 2 young boys and a degree, and I work full time. I work really hard. I do customer service for our local utility. So I deal with a lot of customers that need assistance, and they call in and I'm able to refer them to SNAP. And I've had customers call in crying, elderly people that they will freeze because they're too scared to use their heat. They've literally cried to me about it. It can be really disheartening, but knowing that I have somewhere to turn them to is just such a relief, knowing that I can assure them, like, you can get this help, they can help you. Just hearing the relief in their voice, knowing that somebody's willing to be there and help them. A lot of people say, really? Can they? Yeah, I promise they can help you. Personally, when COVID hit, I was homeschooling 2 little boys, and it affected my mental health. And then I got sick and developed what they call chronic COVID or long haulers. So I've had multiple doctor's appointments, and it affected my liver and kidneys. I mean, it was serious damage. but it created a long term cough, a chronic cough that they weren't sure when it would go away, and I couldn't breathe or speak, which I do for a living. So I couldn't meet my bills, and I was able to turn to SNAP to help me meet my rent and utility. And just the ripple effect it has from getting some help on little, well, for some people it's little, to me it's huge for things like that. It allowed my kids to have a Christmas, for them to be able to be with me without me being super stressed out, and having their mother be present because she's not worried about how she's going to pay her rent or her bills, was just huge. So it's just such an amazing thing that you're able to do. I'm so excited about the assistance you're able to give, and I'm so grateful for SNAP and for the chance to advocate for myself and share my experience. So thank you.
You know, Senator, I think that's kind of the large scale, again, over $20,000, thousands of households, need is strong. I appreciate that you're also thinking about kind of the continuum of housing, including the creation of new affordable housing. We are currently working on senior housing. I think there's been a lot of focus on low income and homeless housing, which we need, but there's a continuum, and we need to continue to get that senior end and even home ownership funded as well. And then the last thing I would call out is we are standing up a brand new water assistance program that was in some of the recovery dollars aligned with LIHEAP, and Carol's with us as well. We've not had water and utility assistance historically, so this is a very big add to help meet a need. And Carol, I don't know if you want to come off speaker and talk about that a little bit.
Well, we're actually just getting it rolling. We just got the contracts in. So yeah, we can help people one time a year up to $2,500. This is huge because the only thing really available in our community is $135 a year per household through the utility. So to be able to have this for people to access and to get them back square, it's the difference. When I listen to the ladies speak, if you're 1 or 2 months behind, it's stressful. But you get 3, 4, 5, 6 months behind, you can't breathe, right? You can't unbury from that. I mean, I couldn't unbury for that. So this money to me is going to get everybody back on the board, whether it's water, rental, the LIHEAP money, all of this gets people square back again so that they can take care of themselves, right? And I'm grateful for all of it. So we're excited to get the LIWAP going.
Hey, Julie and everyone, I'm so sorry, but the Senator, Senator, you're going to be, you're called to votes. So maybe if you could please just give some closing remarks, and then just so everyone on the call knows, we will have policy and myself and others from Senator Murray's team on the call. So Senator, maybe closing remarks to you.
Great, John. Thank you. Julie, thank you so much for putting us in touch with so many great people, and especially to Julie and Chelsey. I'll carry you in my heart and use you as my stories of why we have to be there as the federal government, to be at the back of people when they're having challenges. I just feel like everybody should have these opportunities. Nobody chooses to have a time when they're sick or they can't pay their rent or all the things that you're talking about. And if we're just there for people for a bit when they're at their lowest point and help them get back on their feet, they will be strong and help contribute back to others too. So it's a cycle we've got to make sure we're here for. I will take your stories, I will take your passion, I will take your tears back with me and make sure we continue to fight to make sure people have the resources they need. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I will leave this for, because I have to run vote, but I will leave my staff on here. If there's anything else we should know, we will stay in touch with you as we continue to work, but thank you for taking the time today. So appreciate it. Stay healthy and well.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you.